Hello, saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
Hey, it's Storyworthy. Today on the show, comedian Debra DiGiovanni talks about her most troublesome apartment.
It's the summer, it's beautiful, but I'm basically, I'm lame the entire time, so I don't get to use the roof deck. So this is the first time, right? I don't get to use it. So I was just like, that was going to be the highlight of the whatever. But because I didn't get to use it, I'm surrounded by trees. A family of raccoons took over, and I just opened the door, and it was covered with raccoons. Some of them were like sunning themselves on my picnic table. There was one lying on top of the barbecue. Like they had made themselves at home. Like they looked at me like, did you bring snacks? Like they couldn't believe that I was bothering their wonderful vacation spot.
Today on the show, comedian Debra DiGiovanni talks about her most troublesome apartment. Stay close.
Hey, my name is Debra DiGiovanni, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show of over 13 years or you're a new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the show last week, which was a live broadcast of Story Smash, the storytelling game show. Holy cow, was that a lot of fun. That show happened on July 15th, and I aired it last week. And you can actually watch the entire show on my YouTube channel. Go over to YouTube, Christine Blackburn, and you will see that entire Story Smash because I had it recorded that night. Yeah, that's right, videotaped. So go over to YouTube, watch the entire show, or you can just listen to the podcast from last week. But stick with me now because today I've got Debra DiGiovanni on the show. Now, this is a story that she told me a couple of years ago, but I'm bringing it back because it's a fantastic story, and it's about her most troublesome apartment. Now, I don't know if you guys live in an apartment or you live in a home, but I've been in a lot of apartments in my life. Well, I live in Los Angeles, so, to own a home, you don't need $1 million. You need $2 million. So most people, or a lot of people, rent. And when you get a good apartment, boy, you don't want to leave that apartment, especially if it's rent control. If you're in LA County, rent control can go up like 4% a year, but that's it. So, the numbers are tricky, right? The numbers are tricky. It gets very expensive. Anyway, today Debra talks about her most troublesome apartment, Debra DiGiovanni, and I know you guys are going to love her. She's an amazing comedian, and she's a regular at the Comedy Store, and she's just so funny, entertains people. She's been entertaining people for over 25 years. Anyway, I know you guys are going to love today's show. And My Life in 3 Songs is still going strong. Please take a listen to My Life in 3 Songs over there on Spotify. It's my other podcast, and it's the podcast that I really care about because I care about music. So if you haven't listened to My Life in 3 Songs, please go over there to Spotify and check it out. All right, I think that's all my news. You guys, I appreciate you listening so much, especially to my biggest fans out there like Porfirio and Dave Bechek and Tracy Varana. I've got some really wonderful super fans out there, and I really appreciate you guys listening every week. All right, you guys, without any further ado, please put your hands together for the very talented Debra DiGiovanni.
Okay, so go back with me, everyone. It was the 90s. Oh, a good time. And it was in Toronto. This is when I was still in Toronto. This is pre-comedy. This is before I started doing comedy. I didn't know what I wanted to do at this point. I was answering the phone for a living. I was a receptionist at an advertising agency, and I had just scored this fabulous old apartment. And it was an old Victorian house. and it sat on the edge of a beautiful park in Toronto in a lovely neighborhood close to the subway. It was fantastic. And it was one of those, it was very coveted because a mutual friend had been living in this apartment for years and years and years. And I remember going over for whatever, a girls' night and being just like, oh God, if you ever want to give away this apartment, please think of me. And then that happened. And she was moving, and she moved downstairs. So it was 3 apartments, ground floor, second floor, third floor. And so she's like, it's available. So I took the 3rd floor, and what it was like, a typical Victorian house. So the 3rd floor, it was, it was a slanted ceiling, right? So it's like a triangular, right? Like I'm at a loss for words for that.
It's like a Cape Cod. I actually grew up in that.
It's like a church kind of thing.
You can't always stand up in the room.
No, if you're really tall, no, you're going to be a little in trouble. So it was that, but the apartment was long rather than, wide. Okay. So that was great. And it had the real sort of pull of the apartment is that it had this cute apartment, great, but it had this roof deck that was like a beer commercial. Like it was gigantic. It doubled the size of the apartment. It was so big. So it was just an absolute gift, and it was beautiful. You're on the 3rd, so you had a beautiful view, and it was surrounded by trees, and it was just lovely. So, spent a lot of time out there, the minute it was, spring to fall, it was an extra room, and I got one of those heaters that you could, put through, and it was fantastic. A lot of barbecues, I had it fully decked out. It was just really, really, a real extra to the apartment. And, so that being, in the 3rd floor, the apartment was, incredibly cold in the winter, very hot in the summer. Like an air conditioner it laughed, it was just going to strike because it was just so hot. And then it was, again, so I spent a lot of time on the deck. And then I remember this one year, I can't remember what year it was. It might have been 98. And I'd been walking home from a friend who lived not too far away from me. So I'd gotten on the subway, and I'd walking home, and, there was a little convenience store in the corner. It was maybe 10:30 at night, and I'd gone in, I got myself a Diet Coke or something, and I was walking home, and there was a big library on the corner, and they'd been doing construction at the library, right? They were restoring some parts of the library. I was like, okay. So as I was getting there, 10:30 at night, summer, but still 10:30 at night. So it's sufficiently dark. And as I'm about to cross the street, I'm at the corner. I can see my house from where I am, right? And, construction, whatever. And there was a sign that was like, please use the other sidewalk. But someone apparently had moved the sign. So I confidently walked to the other side of the street and fell into a hole, and tore both of my Achilles tendons. And I don't know if anyone's had this kind of injury before, but it's like the kind of thing that the minute it happens, you're like, oh, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. And it's, again, 10:30 at night, I'm alone. I can see my apartment. And then, that hole was deep, but it wasn't too deep. Like if I was standing up, it would come to like chest. Okay. So I was like, okay, I can get myself out of here. Right. I pull myself up and get myself up. But then I realized I cannot stand. There's no way. I've been hobbled. I've literally been hobbled. Both of them. Yuck. And so then I basically did the army crawl. I did the army crawl to my apartment because it was like, there was no other way. I had also just moved into this apartment, like truly 3 months earlier. I just moved in. So it's on the 3rd floor, 3 flights of stairs. And of just like, what am I going to do? And it was, so it took me an hour to get home.
Okay, because first of all, there's no cell phone. There's no flip phone.
There's 1998, exactly.
Right.
Thank you for saying that, because it's true. There was no cell phones. There was no texting. Right. There was no whatever. And it was also the kind of neighborhood, it was a nice neighborhood, but it wasn't the kind of neighborhood that I was going to scream and say, help. It just wasn't going to happen.
So how did you get out of the hole?
This is the thing. So I get out of the hole. I drag myself over, and I'm telling you, just drag, honestly, the kind that you just have to stop every 5 minutes minutes. I'm crying because I'm in pain. Finally get to my apartment, drag myself. I'm not joking. It took me an hour, Christine. I swear to God. So I finally somehow get to the top, and it's like, you know, the third floor. It's like stairs. Like it's going up. So It's really, you know, I'm sweating. I'm exhausted. By the time I get there, I get in. Fine. Okay. So, you know, call my work and leave a message and say, oh, I'm in trouble. I've really had an accident. Luckily, I had a wonderful boss who came to get me the next day. I didn't do anything that night. She came to get me the next day, and she was like, literally had, you know, called me at 6 o'clock in the morning and said, I'm coming to get you. We went to the hospital, and then, you know, they did whatever they needed to do to me. But again, with Achilles tendons, they didn't snap. They were just torn. So it was like, I remember the doctors going, this would have been better if you would have literally snapped them, because we could put it back together. But it was the same thing like the ribs, where they were just like, you're just going to have to stay off of them. And I was like, oh my God. So it was like pain pills, and they wrapped me. I was bruised from like ankle to hip. Like it was black and blue. Okay. So it was just, I had this moment. Okay. My God bless. She was her name was Melanie. She was such a wonderful lady. And she, you know, stayed with me at the hospital. And then, you know, when we were leaving and she was taking me home, she had, you know, she was much older than me. And she had the foresight to go, she got me some groceries. She got some whatever. And I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, you're on the 3rd floor of an old house. And she's like, I'm just making sure you're going to be okay for a couple of days. And I was like, oh my God. So I just moved in, and there was no like going up and it was not going to happen. Like it couldn't happen. Like there was no like just going out to the elevator, nothing. So I was pretty much trapped in the apartment. Okay, fine. So I was there. I was able to take a leave of absence from work. It was very rear window. I was stuck 3 months. 3 months of, you know, a physiotherapist, you know, this is Canada, a physiotherapist would come to me, like it was a nurse that would come to me once a week, and we would do, you know, whatever we needed to do to like kind of make sure that I was going to heal. But I was literally just sitting and propped. Just.
And what about your family? Were they around?
And no one, and my brother was too young at this point. He didn't live in Toronto. Everyone was about 4 hours away. And at this point, my twin sister was on the West Coast. And so there was literally no one. Like, I mean, my mom and dad definitely came up one weekend, you know, to make sure everything was good. But what I started to have to do was and I had a friend, again, that was a neighbor, thank God for that. But what I had to do was I'd have to drag myself back out to the deck. And we made a pulley system. So I would put a key and lower the key down. My friend would grab the key and let themselves into the apartment. And so that's how that's how I had people, you know, helping me out and whatever. But this is so this is going on. It's the summer. It's beautiful. But I'm basically, you know, I'm lame the entire time. So I don't get to use the roof deck. So this is the first time, right? I don't get to use it. So it was just like, oh, you know, that was going to be the highlight of the whatever. But because I didn't get to use it, I'm surrounded by trees. A family of raccoons took over my roof deck. Like, and when I say a family, I'm talking like 12. Oh my God. Because Toronto's very raccoons, tons of raccoons. And I have a cat at the time. And it was just like, you know, so like I hadn't even, you know, the key, fine. My friend, you know, I gave her a copy. That was it. So it would be like a couple of weeks before I would go back out. And then one day it was a different person. My friend, she was like, oh, you know, someone else is going to come over. I was like, okay. And I had to go to the roof deck, and I just opened the door, and it was covered with raccoons. Like some of them were like sunning themselves on my picnic table. Like they were like, there was one lying on top of the barbecue. Like they had made themselves at home. Like they looked at me like, did you bring snacks? Like they couldn't believe that I was bothering their wonderful vacation spot. Okay. So then I realized, okay, I can't do this now. I can't go back out. Cause I mean, it's like, there's a lot of them. You know, a raccoon go kill a cat. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And they used to taunt my cat too. They used to hang off the screen and scream and awful. And then so this was weeks. And then, you know, my friend would come over and we'd like stand there and she'd stand there, I'd be sitting, and I would just like looking, going, what are we gonna do? How do we get rid of them? So then, you know, I called the city, and I was like, look
animal control.
Yes, animal control. I was like, what do we do? And they were like, literally nothing. I was like, you don't understand. And also too, I don't know if you know this, but raccoon poo is toxic.
Oh, no.
And what they had started doing, because they saw me, you know, coming out and they didn't like it. They didn't want me to come out. They started right under the door became their toilet. The door literally was a pile of raccoon poo that I couldn't even open the door. It was, they just took over. They didn't care. And then I found out that I did a whole bunch of research. And then I found out raccoons hate the sound of humans. So they said, what you need to do is you need to get a radio and put a talk radio and just let the chatter go. They hate it so much. And then it was like, they were like, that'll drive them away. And then when they're gone, get someone to go out and sprinkle a powdered laundry detergent because they hate that as well. And I was just like, oh my God, it was weeks. And then I had to like hire someone to come over and like shovel the poo and rinse it was the summer of raccoons.
Was that a good story? I told you. You can't live with a family of raccoons. They'll win every time. That's what raccoons do. Anyway, I do hope you guys enjoyed the show. And of course, you can always head over to storyworthypodcast.com and join my mailing list. And also follow me on all social media at Storyworthy. You know, Twitter, I'm still over there on Twitter/X or whatever it's called now. But yeah, Elon Musk is making it very difficult. I'll say that. However, I've got a lot of friends over there on Twitter, and so I'm still there. If anybody wants to find me there, you certainly can at Storyworthy. And also, of course, on Instagram at Storyworthy. And check out the photos at Story Smash on Instagram. They're hilarious. All right, you guys, we're going to wrap it up. I'm really happy you guys tuned in today. I've got a big show next week with author Teresa Strasser, so I hope you guys tune in next week. But as of now, thank you again for listening today. And on behalf of Debra DiGiovanni, my name is Christine Blackburn, saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
Wells Fargo presents one of the surest ways to grow your money. A Wells Fargo CD account, where you can earn a 5.00% annual percentage yield on an 11-month term with a minimum opening deposit of $5,000. Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/CD rates to open a CD account and start growing your savings with us.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.